Hi, this is Rick Day with Optimum Success, and this is investment strategies. So get the disclaimer out of the way. I'm not a professional investment guy. I'm not a stock guy, but I have been doing investments for 45, 50 years in the stock market, in real estate, and in business. So I'm going to give you the basic, simple stuff that I can tell you, and I'm not claiming to be your neighborhood local stockbroker, just to be clear on that. No feds around, are there? Okay, so number one, start off with a retirement plan and bank accounts. No brainer, right? Build a retirement program as soon as humanly possible and get some money in the bank. Number one, that's your very first starting point. Number two, if you work for an employer that has a retirement program and they have a amount that they're putting in there, get the match. You wouldn't believe how many people I've talked to that don't get the match on their retirement program. It drives me crazy. So if you have a 401k or an IRA or some version thereof, typically with an employer, certainly they typically put in a 1 to 3% match. Different ones have different deals. I always did a 3% match when I was in business, and I went around and slapping the young men in the head and said, why don't you have money in there? Get the match. And the reason for that is, number one, you're getting free money if you match it. Number two, that's typically tax-free money. That's money that you're not being taxed on at that time. So let's say your employer's giving you a 3%, you get in 3%, you now are putting in 6%. If you're young, I suggest you invest aggressively. I also, if there is an option, I suggest you invest in the lowest overhead type investments possible that will give you the highest return. I can get into more detail on that later. A lot of times what's offered are various mutual funds, growth funds. If you can, you want to get into sector funds or individual stocks, because then you're not paying a percentage for somebody else to manage that for you. You can look at that a couple of different ways. If you're young and you're not old, you want to invest aggressively and not be playing around with money markets and bonds and things like that that are very low return, often not returning even what inflation is costing you. So if that employer's got that program, get in it. The second thing about that is every time you get a raise or you get an increase, put more money in that. If you can get your expenses at home under control and you can afford to do it, put more money in that. So what I'm getting at is build yourself some security and some money, because you have to have some money in order to move ahead to make more money. So if you get that match, you take it. What do you have in your way of tolerances, and what is your talent? You have to figure that out. So where are your talents? What do you have an understanding for? And how much tolerance for risk do you have? I'm 61 years old and I have a risk tolerance of an 18-year-old. Stupid, smart, I don't know, but I want to make money. I don't want to piddle around. So I'm going for it, and I'm probably too old to be doing that by the typical investment strategy. What do you want to do? Is it real estate and investment, and is it stocks? I would suggest that you want to do all of them. The stocks, they kind of speak for themselves. Stocks and those types of investments, you're buying a small piece of another company. And what you want to do with that, and it's pretty basic, not rocket science, buy something that's good when it's less expensive. So I would give examples, but I got to be careful here. But think of all the companies that you know around you. It might be a building store. It might be a company that makes tires, makes cars, whatever that might be. They're manufacturing something, they're selling that. That means they're probably, look at how long they've been around, but they're probably a solid company. So what I look for is how long's that company been around and what their track record is. And then you try and buy them when they're low, and then you're going to make money in growth, because that stock's going to go up in value and you're going to hold that stock, hopefully. I suggest people hold the stocks for the long term. Secondly, you might look at dividend stocks, stocks that are going to pay you small amounts of money, which are going to buy you more shares of stocks or put more money in your investment account to buy other stocks. Real estate's my favorite vehicle. You can buy real estate for 0 to 20% down all day long. Sometimes you can buy real estate for nothing down. You can use a hard money lender. You find a seller that's anxious to sell, or sometimes you could use a situation where there's there's an incentive program or something of that nature. So you might get into there for 3% or 5%. There are a whole bunch of vehicles in ways to do that with real estate. Usually the way I look at real estate is even if you're putting 20% down, you put 1/5 of the value of that asset. That asset's presumably paying it for itself, maybe giving you cash flow. And then later on with growth, that asset's probably worth more than it was today, and it cost you 1/5 or 1/10 of what the value of that asset was. If you buy a stock, a good stock, you're paying close to what it's worth today, it's going to be worth tomorrow. If you bought it well, maybe it's worth 20% more. If you buy that piece of real estate and you pay 10 to 20% down, it's worth 80 to 90% or even more because it grows. Hopefully that makes sense. We can talk about more detail on that later. And then the other is business. Whether it's your business, you're a partner in a business, an investor in a business, or it's your business, you can build that business, build income, and eventually sell that business and realize the reward after you sell that business. When you do business, don't just be a technician in the business. And I've seen this over and over. People are pretty good at something. I could use a million examples. Let's just say auto repair, for instance. You're good at something and you do it for somebody else, and then you decide you want to be in business for yourself. Okay, I'm Tom. I'm an auto mechanic and I work for Bob. I don't want to work for Bob anymore for a variety of reasons. I want my own deal. I just open up Tom's Automotive Repair. Guess what I'm doing? I'm still a mechanic for the same money with all the headaches of ownership. And this happens all the time. Don't do that. You might have to do that when you very first begin, but I would encourage you to have a plan to get away from that quickly, because where do you make the money and where do you build the value? You build the value in income producing assets. What are income producing assets? Stocks, real estate, businesses. In business, where are the income producing assets? They're people, they're employees, they're team members that work for and with you, because you make a percentage on each person. One person can only make the money that one person can make. It's a finite number. If you do the others, you're getting passive income, or income, not necessarily passive income, but income that you're not making yourself, that other people or other things are making for you. Imagine a vending machine. You plug it in, you fill it up every once in a while, it dispenses stuff and you make a profit on it. When you have employees, they're much more complex, but they're a percentage of every employee's work if you're running your business correctly. Whether it's some kind of contracting company or repair company, you're making the money you're making because you're filling a position, but you're making a portion of every person that's laboring, manufacturing in your business. They are an income producing asset, and one of the best income producing assets, also rewarding and a headache both. You're gonna make more than you would make working in your job, otherwise why take on those headaches? I can't be clear about that. The other thing I would say about business, which is more specific to business than investment strategy, is what is your exit plan? Don't go in if you don't know how you're gonna get out. Thanks for joining me again. See you next time.